Hey everyone, it is Echo here, and I am back for another 911 Lone Star episode review. This week we're going to be talking about Season 5, Episode 8, titled The Quiet Ones, and we're mainly going to be talking about Tommy as she continues her journey through cancer, as well as Tarlos and what happens with them this episode. So let's get started.
Okay. Then when can I start? Well, and I will see you in a week.
What was that?
She said that my insurance rejected my chemo treatment.
Right before you start?
Well, it turns out that the AFD doesn't cover experimental treatment.
So in this episode, we learn that Tommy is supposed to start an experimental chemo treatment with a 97% success rate. Unfortunately, while talking with Owen, she gets a phone call that insurance won't cover it, and she has to do the regular treatment with only a 50% success rate. Unfortunately, most insurances don't cover experimental treatment, which I think is bullshit. The success rate is so much better with the experimental treatment. The regular treatment may lead to more health issues if the treatment doesn't work, which means more cost. Like, health insurance in this country sucks. You would think they would want to save money, but nope.
Decided to deny Captain Vega her chemotherapy treatment.
What the hell? Why would they do that?
Because it costs $150,000 and they say they don't have the money. So we're gonna help them find it.
And how do we do that?
By going through the city's budget, page by page. We're gonna look for every line of waste, graft, or mismanagement we can find. All 900 pages of it.
And how long do we have?
One shift. So let's get it.
So Owen went to the mayor to see if he could do something for Tommy. When that doesn't work, he has the 126 crew comb through 900 pages of the budget. First of all, mad props to them for going through all that boring paperwork. I think I would get distracted very easily. But the 126 found some needless costs that could easily be cut. Even something as big as tanks, which cost millions of dollars. Thanks to Paul, who is very attentive and discovered that. Politicians can be so greedy and power hungry. They bury things in bills knowing that most people won't always read the fine print to notice this stuff. And then these things get passed and it's too late to do anything about it. I think as we head into some scary political times in the US, I hope we can maybe learn to read the fine detail, to catch things and try to stop them before they become a problem.
For Cap.
For Cap, to the end.
Captain Strand, I'm Sergeant Lynn.
Do what you have to do, Sergeant.
With your permission.
We'd like to stand in solidarity with you on behalf of Captain Vega.
It's an honor to have you.
So at the budget meeting, the whole 126 take a stand to fight for Tommy to have her experimental treatment covered. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I love how much the 126 is a family. If one of their own is hurting or struggling, they will do whatever they can to fix it, even if that means getting arrested and losing their job. But in a surprising turn of events, the police come in to arrest them but decide to take a stand instead. And because of this, the mayor agrees to have Tommy's treatments covered. And only for Tommy to walk in and say, no deal, demanding that experimental treatment be covered for all first responders. And the mayor agrees, so this is a huge win. I think this storyline really comes in at a time in US history where power-hungry and greedy men have risen to power. Men like the mayor in a way. And we as people, if we want to make a change, can't sit on the sidelines. We need to make our voices heard and stand up for what is right, just like the 126 did. And hopefully, like the show, we can see real change. Now, let's move on to Tarlos.
Is it for Enzo?
Your brother. It's the best boarding school in Switzerland. That should cover him until he's 18. But we need to move straight away, before the government tries to seize more of my assets.
You want to put Jonah in a boarding school?
Well, don't make it sound like it's a dirty word. I went there, along with half the royals in Europe.
Yeah, but look at him.
So TK goes to visit Enzo, and we finally learn why Enzo did the things he did. But the big thing I want to talk about is what Enzo wants to do with little Jonah. He wants to send him to a boarding school in Switzerland. Obviously, this does not sit well with TK, who thinks the idea of his little brother being raised by an institution across the world is outrageous, which I totally get and think it's crazy too. This leads to the next scene I want to talk about. Let's watch.
That we'd be out of our depth. Do you have any idea how to take care of a toddler? Or how would manage watching him when you're on a 24-hour shift and I'm on a case?
We'd figure it out.
So that's a no.
Look, people figure this stuff out. Judd is practically raising a 3-year-old on his own, and he's making it work.
Yeah, there's a lot of family to pick up the slack.
Yeah, and so...
So Carlos wakes up to find TK looking at an adoption attorney, which comes as a shock to Carlos. If you don't remember, last season we learned that Carlos wasn't sure if he would ever be ready to be a dad. And TK agreed to being okay with it, that they may never have kids. So TK just jumping to looking at adoption attorneys without consulting Carlos first seems to me that he's already made the decision to adopt Jonah. Now I get it, Jonah is his family. It's not some random kid, it's his little brother. So I completely understand TK's point of view. However, as someone who sees a lot of myself in Carlos, in particular, I also don't want to have kids. So I felt like in this scene, I was right there in Carlos' shoes. And yes, I was pissed at TK. Does anyone remember when Carlos bought the loft without consulting TK and then there was a breakup? This feels a lot like that. But only this time, it's TK making a big decision without hardly consulting in Carlos. And Carlos, he isn't ready to be a dad. As he said, he has too much unfinished business. His father's murder is still out there and it's haunting him. I know people are upset with Carlos because he is so caught up in solving his father's murder, but we have to remember that a lot of us have never been in that position. At least I really hope you've never been in it. We can't begin to explain the pain Carlos must be feeling. So it's understandable that he's not ready. Anyways, the kid discussion ends up being cut short when Carlos gets a call from work and he has to go in.
To say, he was murdered 2 days after Nestor disappeared.
What? The timing of that didn't strike you as suspicious?
Yeah, of course it did. But like I told you at the funeral, your dad had a lot of enemies. Now, we did check into it. We couldn't find any evidence that they were behind it.
Besides, the Nines wouldn't be crazy enough to kill a Ranger.
They're a transnational gang responsible.
So Carlos gets called into work because of a murder. In the opening scene of the show, we see a guy by the name of Julio get murdered while on a 911 call with Wyatt. Sadly, this is Wyatt's first loss while on a call, so you see later in this episode that he's very upset about it. And they believe this murder is gang-related. Turns out last year, Gabriel had a CI within this gang, and that CI went missing 2 days before Gabriel was murdered. The CI has never been found. So yeah, this gang could definitely be linked to Gabriel's murder. Finally, Carlos might have a lead. And Carlos, he's ready to be on the case, not only to solve Julio's murder, but to maybe get some more details that will lead him to finding Gabriel's murderer. Unfortunately, getting on this case proved to be challenging as the APD is running it. So Carlos and Ranger Campbell have to convince Wyatt to let them listen to the 911 call. And there they learn of a suspect by the name of Hey Hey.
I'm hit! Sam, I got him. He's down. Behind the couch. Check him. I need EMS. Officer down to back down. Officer down. Move.
Here, they are able to gain justice for Julio and kill Hey Hey. The reason I wanted to share and discuss this shootout scene, however, is because of the way it was filmed. They filmed it in a way that makes it look real, like you're actually there in the scene, like you're Carlos trying to take down the murderer. I really felt the suspense in this scene because of that. So mad props to the camera crew for filming it like this. Anyways, during the shootout, Ranger Sam Campbell gets injured.
I like how we left things back at the loft.
You're the one that left, Carlos. And I'm not gonna back down, okay? It's my little brother. Carlos.
Detective McGregor. The attic's bleeding.
As TK and Nancy are treating Ranger Campbell, Carlos asks to have a word with his husband. Here, Carlos is checking in on TK because he's upset with how things left that morning. TK admits that he's not backing down, which he shouldn't. It's his brother after all. But TK really needs to slow down and take time to talk to Carlos, to listen to Carlos' concerns, to not jump to an adoption attorney like the decision has already been made. Also, there's something else I'd like to add in regards to the storyline. Now, all the clues are definitely pointing towards them adopting Jonah or some other kid. But seeing this storyline of one person wanting to have kids and the other not got me thinking about similar storylines I've seen in my other favorite shows. And each one ends the same, with a couple together and having a child. I wish some show would change the narrative on this. As someone like myself who doesn't want to have kids someday, I'd like this argument to play out and it results in the person not wanting kids to get their way. And to add to that, the couple still stays together in the end. If some shows could do this, then maybe we can validate and show people that it's okay to not want to have kids, that it doesn't make you wrong or a bad person. Anyways, moving on. As Carlos is talking to TK, he notices that the attic is bleeding. This leads him to discover Gabriel's missing CI. Yes, he's been held captive for over a year, and he's clearly in bad shape.
I would have, but we're in the middle of a thing.
No worries.
He wants to adopt his little brother, which is noble. He's 3. Sweet. He's adorable. But I'm not ready. Too much unfinished business.
So the Rangers are at the hospital waiting to see if the CI wakes up, and we'll talk to them. And Sam asks Carlos why he didn't introduce him to his husband back at the house. Carlos goes on to tell him about the disagreement in adopting Jonah, leading us to first off learn that Sam has 4 kids. Jeez, that is way too many. But Sam also tells Carlos that once you have kids, most likely anything unfinished is going to stay unfinished. That unfinished thing for Carlos is Gabriel's murder. I think if he could solve it, then he'd be more open to having kids. But right now, the unsolved murder of his father is weighing too heavily for him. He needs to solve it first, and fingers crossed soon. Also, I want to add that the way Carlos is talking about Jonah is like Carlos is already a dad. Carlos will make a great dad. Actually, I think Carlos will be an even better dad than TK. I think Carlos will have that child wrapped around his fingers.
You okay, son?
Nestor's dead.
Damn. Did he give you anything?
Ranger Campbell.
No.
Well, the CI wakes up and he's requesting to speak with Gabriel. Well, since Gabriel is not there anymore, he gets the next best thing, Carlos. And in a surprising turn of events, in the end of the episode, we get a major plot twist. Right before the CI dies, we learn that there was 5 more CIs that went missing, that there might be a snitch within the Texas Rangers. And the ranger the CI says to look out for is Ranger Campbell. Did Campbell murder Gabriel? It's possible, but knowing Lone Star, they like to throw twists that lead us to thinking it's someone when it's actually someone else. So my gut has been saying it's Ranger Bridges, the chief, and I've been thinking it's him since the season 4 finale. Like, to me, it feels like he hasn't put Gabriel's murder as a priority. Like, he keeps brushing everything off, and just likes to tell Carlos he's working on it when really he hasn't. Like, if one of your own was murdered, I would think you'd be more involved and active in figuring it out. So I'm suspicious of him. Next episode, supposedly, we are solving Gabriel's murder. So, is it Sam Campbell? Is it Ranger Bridges? Or is it someone completely else? I cannot wait to figure it out. So last week, here was my top 5 favorite 911 Lone Star episodes. In number 1, we had 417 Best of Men and 418 In Sickness and Health. In number 2, we had 3-4 Push. In number 3, we had 4-9 Roadkill. In number 4, we had 212, The Big Heat, and in number 5, we had 5'7", Kiddos. Now, after watching Season 5, Episode 8, I am excited to announce that The Quiet Ones has landed in my 3rd place slot. This episode was by far my favorite of the season. So much action, excitement, shock, happiness. My emotions were all over the place. It had to land in 3rd place. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching this review. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. The next episode is the mid-season finale, so I'm very excited to review it, so stay tuned.